All right, everybody. I think we're going to get things started. Welcome one and all. It's great to have you all here. The topic for today's nonprofit webinar at Monday.com is how a nonprofit supporting thousands with autism migrated to Monday CRM. And we're very lucky to be joined today by Ethan from the Flutie Foundation, who will tell you a lot more about the work that they're doing. And yeah, the CRM migration is just one small part of the myriad topics I'm sure we're going to cover today. Today's a really fun session. It's quite informal. It's going to kind of follow an interview style, and it's designed to give you, our nonprofit community, the chance to actually hear from real people in the nonprofit space. I spend a lot of my day doing trainings, and I'm endlessly giving, examples and talking about the donor named John Smith and Foundation A giving money to Organization B from grant name one, and there is a risk, I think, sometimes that we get disconnected from the real work that amazing nonprofits are doing, both the Flutie Foundation and your organizations, I'm sure, as well. So as much as possible this year, I'm trying to kind of reconnect us back to the actual people who are using Monday for all these amazing things. If anyone in the audience today has a cool Monday use case or has been using Monday for a long time and would love to kind of present it, we can definitely talk about that. I'm always looking for future folks that we can get on board for webinars like we have today with Ethan. And if you have questions for either me about Monday.com and our nonprofit program, or for Ethan about the Flutie Foundation, the work they're doing, and what they've done on Monday.com, please feel free. I think that's one of the beautiful things about today's session is that we can have a conversation. The best place to leave questions is in the chat. And we'll do our best to get through all the questions. We've got 1 hour on the books scheduled for today. I've got a big, long bunch of questions that I'm curious to ask Ethan about. I don't know how long it'll take us to get through those, if we have more or less time, but we will definitely try and prioritize all of your questions today and answer anything that you want to know. What else do I need to say? Yes, today's session is being recorded. It will be sent to everybody who registered, and that's a recording link that won't expire. So you'll be able to access that, at any point if you need to share this with colleagues or want to watch it later, fast forward, rewind bits again, anything like that, you're going to be able to do that. So maybe before I introduce Ethan, which is a pretty important part of today's session, I will just say 2 or 3 sentences about Monday for Nonprofits and our work, just in case there's anybody who is joining us today who doesn't know about the work that we're doing. So I'm Alex. If it's the first time I'm meeting anyone here, it's good to meet you. I'm the Nonprofit Success Manager at Monday.com, which means I'm helping our 27,000 active nonprofits on the nonprofit program get as much out of Monday.com as possible. About 80% of those nonprofits are paying absolutely nothing, getting 10 free seats on our 4 core products, one of which is the CRM, one of which is Monday Work Management. I know that Flutie is using at least 2 of those. We also give discounts on extra seats, discounts on upgrades, and provide all sorts of extra training, webinars like these, consultation sessions, academy courses, templates, and more. If you want to find out more about Monday.com for nonprofits, simply visit monday.com/nonprofits. You can create your account today and join us. And yeah, like I said, if you have any more questions about the work that we're doing, please let me know in the chat. But with that being said, I think I will pass the mic on over now to Ethan. And maybe, Ethan, if you just want to start with a kind of personal introduction, let us know who you are, and then we can jump into a bit more about the work that you're all doing.
Yeah, thanks, Alex, both for the chance to be here today and to chat a little bit about the Flutie Foundation's use of Monday, and also to you all at Monday for all you guys do for nonprofits. It's opened a lot of doors for us, as I'm sure we'll get into as we talk about the way we've used it. So as you remind everybody about the nonprofit program there, we've definitely benefited from that. So thanks to you guys for pioneering that. So yeah, again, thanks for having me here. My name's Ethan Michaud. I'm based in Boston, Massachusetts. I've been with the Flutie Foundation for Autism for just over 4 years now. I've worked in nonprofit, mostly all in fundraising, mostly in the endurance fundraising space, but also in corporate partnerships and events since 2018. Actually, my first job when I graduated from college, we were using Monday back in early 2019. And then there was a big lapse where I wasn't using it as a user before getting back to Flutie Foundation. But it's always funny to look back at that and remember the days of using Monday years and years ago before really diving in headfirst when the Flutie Foundation gave me the chance to. using the product here in its current iteration. So yeah, I've loved working in nonprofit, especially in fundraising. I get to work with a lot of great people, and have found myself at the Flutie Foundation definitely working a lot more on the tech side, the operations side of our development department, along with all of those other things I mentioned. So I've had the chance to really dive in on Monday, which has been great, seeing all it's been able to do and help us accomplish as a small staff. As I'm sure is the case for many folks on the call, we are a small nonprofit at the end of the day. We're a staff of 12. So we are a lean operation, as many nonprofits are. And Monday gives us a lot of tools to excel at that lower head count. So yeah, I can dive in a little bit about the Flutie Foundation as well. If that would be a good place to start, Alex.
Please, that would be great.
Great. We are a 27-year-old nonprofit founded in the late 90s by Doug Flutie and his wife Lori. For those who are unfamiliar, Doug was a football quarterback, played both in the NFL and in the Canadian Football League, and also was a college football star at Boston College here in Boston. His son Dougie was diagnosed with autism at age 2, and he and his wife Lori decided that what they would do as a response to that was start a nonprofit during a time where services for autism were certainly lower than they are today in terms of prevalence and availability. And they were really pioneers in that space. And now, 27 years on, we are coming up on this year raising $50 million for the autism community. And annually, we support about 15,000 individuals and families with autism through a variety of grant programs, direct service support, and individual support as well, which we'll talk a lot about in as it relates to how we manage all those projects at Monday, through Monday rather. But yeah, we sometimes refer to ourselves as a 27-year-old startup because we have changed a lot over the years, and part of that is the last 5 years especially we've grown quite a bit, and in this newest iteration of the Flutie Foundation, we have a keen focus on supporting individuals with autism, both through community partners and corporate partners, as well as direct support, of which we do some programming for young adults with autism across the spectrum through our Stars of the Spectrum program. So,
Awesome. Wow. Like great introduction. And I'm sure people are already firing questions in their mind because there's so much stuff going on there. So let's start kind of at the beginning. I mean, you already mentioned you've been on Monday a long time. I'm sure that's, by the way, even longer than I've been on Monday, so that's very cool. I'm sure it was a very different platform when you started. But if we even go back further, like um, in Flutie's journey, like, do you know what kind of work they did beforehand? If there were pain points before Monday came along, like what kind of things was Monday brought in to solve for the Flutie Foundation?
yeah, I think at the very beginning it was to help streamline work management. So it was before the CRM product even existed. The foundation onboarded with Monday in 2020, 2021 timeframe, shortly before I arrived. And prior to that, I do not believe the foundation had a dedicated work management or project management software in place. So using a lot of the legacy, like Microsoft Suite products, some Google Suite products. But the foundation at the time, I do not believe, had any sort of dedicated or like central project management platform. So that was what it was originally brought on to solve, was just as the foundation started to see that growth trajectory, turning upwards, there was, it was known that there was going to need to be some greater level of organization to keep up with the demand and opportunities in front of the foundation. And so to streamline the work management, first and foremost, that's what Monday was brought on for, was to just start to get things organized from a project management standpoint.
Cool. I mean, yeah, that's a good place to start, and that's where probably
Yeah.
most users are starting. But you did already mention the CRM, so let's bring that in now. And maybe I can give a kind of very quick 10-second spiel for anyone who maybe doesn't know that when Monday started, it was a one product company, like Monday made Monday, and that was it. But in the last few years, for business sense, for business reasons, it makes sense to diversify. So Monday launched various different products. I'd say our next most successful product is Monday CRM, which was designed really for kind of salespeople to convert deals and turn them into leads and stuff, but is an excellent tool for nonprofits. Anytime you're managing, I always say any kind of people, but I'd love to hear more about what you're using it for. Any kind of people, it's great to manage on the CRM. And now we're very excited to be able to offer the CRM for free to nonprofits as well. So our nonprofit package used to be 10 free seats. It's now 10 free seats on each of the four core products. So from our conversations earlier, Ethan, I know that you're moving stuff into the CRM right now. And yeah, I'd love to understand what you're using the CRM for, how you found that process, how different the products are, and if you found any benefits and challenges in that migration.
Yeah, well, we're using it for a lot right off the bat. I think our reason for going down the path of utilizing the CRM product stems from something you just mentioned, which is that it is a product where you can manage a lot of different types of people, and that was our biggest pain point to be solved by bringing on the CRM was that we do manage so many different types of people. Like we have so many different types of constituents. We have donors, we have volunteers, we have corporate partners and community partners. But the way that we work right now is we also have program participants. We have organizations that we work with not only as community partners, but they are also grantees that have benefited from some of our grant cycles. They also might be an organization that fundraises with us as a charity partner through one of our events, like our Flutie 5K for autism. So we started to realize that as we had grown so much in like 3 to 4 years, there were so many different types of constituents, and so many of those constituents wore two or three or more hats. And so we have a traditional donor database in place, which we still utilize in conjunction with Monday CRM. Will that be how we operate long term? We're still not 100% sure, but that database wasn't holding everything we needed. It also wasn't fully integrated with all the variety of platforms that we utilize to engage with individuals, especially on the fundraising side and on the donor side. We're part of many events that dictate what fundraising platform we fundraise on through those events, especially peer-to-peer events. So we have donor info coming in from multiple different channels. We're also interacting with people on a variety of different campaigns that are both fundraising and programmatic in nature. So we saw all these different types of people scattered across different databases, in some cases not even in databases, just on lists, different places, and also the fact that they overlapped in their roles with us in so many different ways. So we actually, right before Monday CRM was launched, we started to build out a board called CRM in work management for ourselves, just to try to wrap our minds around this problem, and start to try to put some structure to it for us. And then right after Monday CRM was launched, which thank goodness, because it's much better than anything that we could have built in work management on a single board or two or three. So migrating in has been an ongoing process, and I'll say it's still ongoing. With constituents in so many different places, I don't think we ever expected it to be an instant overnight migration. And so it's something that we continue to still move over. There's really been three main ways in which we've started to get our people and their data into the CRM. One obviously is bulk uploads from off-platform with some off-platform organizations. So pulling different groups of constituents together off those different disconnected platforms that I mentioned
And that's
into
like using,
CSV files.
yeah, CSV or Excel files. Okay, yeah, got it.
Yeah, exactly. Organizing there and then putting into the CRM so we can utilize their data as part of our new CRM. We've also, right from the jump, we gave all of our users access to the CRM. So obviously, we're kind of building the ship as we sail it, in a way, to use that metaphor. But we also wanted to open it up so that people could start to utilize it to store information, because as with all nonprofits, we're meeting new people every day, and we want to capture their information and, make sure those leads are stored, those contacts are stored. So we opened it up to all of our users right away and gave them the basic information on how to add contacts and accounts to those CRM boards so that we weren't losing any more real-time information. Obviously, there's some duplication that comes with that, but we found that deduping in that list has been better than waiting months and months to get it perfect to upload everybody at once. So we did some good amount of bulk uploading. We gave our users access to start adding individual contacts and accounts in real time, and we started merging information from existing boards. So, in giving all of our staff access to the CRM, we also have equipped them with the knowledge for automating some information from work management over to the CRM. So, I especially love the automation that's written something like connect items via this logic. And we've used that a lot to connect and create contacts um, from some of our work management boards. So I mentioned we do a lot of peer-to-peer fundraising. So we have a big team for the Boston Marathon a week from today. During the application process for that team, we get over 500 applications, and we were able to migrate some of that data directly from work management into the CRM as it was being gathered on a Monday form. So again, real time type data. So we're not losing it and waiting to download and re-upload. So it's been pretty smooth so far utilizing those three approaches. Again, some duplication work or deduplication work that we have yet to do, and a few other sources of information that we have yet to get fully into the CRM. But I think taking that approach has worked for us because it's meant that and what's great about the product too is that we could just open it up to everybody and say, here's how you add a contact. If you're talking to people, at least get their name, email, phone number in here so that your communication with them starts getting tracked in emails and activities. And it's been a work in progress from there.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, like I said at the beginning, I do a lot of work on the CRM, but I've never actually had to sort of do it for real, Like I can imagine with all those moving parts, it's a challenge. And um, I hope this isn't too kind of specific or technical for folks, but I think one of my aims is to really give people practical advice. So a question that I'm often wrestling with when I'm training people on building the CRM is whether to split, and you mentioned that you have people in multiple different categories, whether to split them into different groups, to use the connecting boards feature, or maybe to use different views and filters. So, how would you at Flutie address this challenge? Maybe you've got one person who's both a donor and a volunteer and joining you for the 10K run. Would you have three different entries in three different boards, connecting boards, filtered views? How would you approach that? And then the second question, which was also a bit technical, is just around the managed duplicates. Do you use the manage duplicates feature and search for a specific field, or do you have a different way of identifying dupes?
Yeah, I'll start with that one because I think it's the shorter answer. We've done a mix of both. We've utilized the duplicate feature for sure. We've also done a little bit of off-platform deduplicating, so kind of like manually looking at the lists, looking at both. And then we've also played around a bit with workflows as well to identify duplicates, especially as we're doing upload some of those off-platform uploads, so uploading Excel files. We've been able to set up some simple automation workflows, rather a little bit further than automations, obviously, through that new feature to identify duplicate contacts if they're uploaded with a similar email. And scrapping those new contacts or connecting new information. That's more of a work in progress. I'll say that's a bit in beta for us. Like we just started trying that out recently. It's worked at a base level so far, but it's been a mix with kind of identifying duplicates and building out a strategy to handle those long term. Um, as for how to manage those entries, that's been a real work in progress for us. And I would say what we've probably spent the most time on in terms of building out the CRM. And I think we've probably done it three different ways already. But what we've landed on is streamlining information, like trying to have a single source of truth wherever and whenever possible. So, really, the whole reason we went down the CRM path to begin with is because we did have constituents who were so many things to us, which meant they had a record on this board and a record on that board and a record about them running a race and donating and volunteering. And that was the core problem that I think I breezed over a little bit in one of my earlier answers, that really we were trying to solve with putting together the Monday CRM side of things, was not having three or four records for an individual, but rather having one single place where their contact information lived, and we knew it was up to date. Um, and so what we do now is our goal is to ensure that every contact that we interact with has a single record on the contacts board. And that is our top level information, for lack of a better way to say it. And from there, we are connecting their contact record to any board where we need their
Mhm.
contact information. So somebody who might be running the Boston Marathon with us on Monday might also be running the New York City Marathon with us in November. And rather than having to go back to our team list for one race, find their contact information, duplicate it, put it in the new board. Now we're trying to store that information in one item on the contacts board on the CRM and connect it wherever we need to access their contact information. Sometimes that's so we can mirror out the contact information on that target board. And other times it's just to connect their contact. So someone can click into it and check in on their information if needed to give them a call. So we are making a big push and working really hard for that contact board to be that single source of truth. Um, how we are tagging and identifying those contacts has evolved, and we're still working out as well. So the way we have it right now is we boiled basically our individuals in our network down to 5 or 6 core types. So that was, and I might mess up the list off the top of my head, but it
Okay.
was a supporter, meaning a donor or somebody who supports us in a way monetarily outside of volunteering. Volunteer, star of the spectrum, which again, I mentioned that program in layman's terms, that would just be a program recipient of ours, a community partner or a corporate partner or a vendor. And we try to mark them based on the type of contact that they are most to us. So a main contact at one of our major distributors for apparel and other promotional items may also donate to us, but his primary
As a part.
function for us is a vendor. Yeah. So and then from there, we've built out a tagging system to try and tag more specifically how people are related to us. I'd say that's the piece that is most under construction for us still as we speak, because we're trying to walk the line between having a tag for every single type of interaction someone might have with us and trying to distill it down to more broad terms, and how we tag those contacts to further drill down on who they are to us and what they are to us. But at the end of the day, what's been far more important than that is just having a single contact to tag where is relevant on a work management board or on another CRM board where their contact information is needed. Because that has been far more impactful than say going into the CRM and sorting by like all the people who have run, say, the Boston Marathon for us. Um, Instead, having their contact information on each team's specific list, 2025, 2026, has been much more, that's been the bigger use case than like having them tagged specifically correctly on the CRM board. So I hope that answers your question. That was a bit more of a long-winded
Yeah,
answer,
no.
but that's
Well,
probably the biggest work in progress for us still, and what we spent the most time on. Like I said, we tried different views. We tried utilizing the contact board to have different views for the different types of people. And at the end of the day, in our most current iteration, we've decided it needs to be simple and it needs to be contact information focused, because all the other intricacies of their interactions with us can be handled on other boards where we tag back to their like headline contact on the contacts board.
got it. No, that's super helpful. There's a couple of questions which maybe I will pull in right now because they're kind of about what
Sure.
we're talking about. So Pedro asked, are we going to see what the CRM looks like? And I apologize, I meant to say this at the beginning. Just because of the real work that they're doing, we can't actually share the actual CRM that Ethan is referring to. But Just last week, I recorded a small video which I posted in our Facebook community. So Monday.com for nonprofits. You'll find us on Facebook. I'll also send a link to join that in the follow-up email, where I kind of ran through those three main ways of designing your CRM. So using the connecting boards, using the filters, or using um, connecting boards, filters, or you're just using different boards, right? Having completely separate entries. And I think that gives you a really like good introduction to that. So if anyone does want to kind of see what we're talking about, check out that video from last week on our Facebook page, and I'll include a link to that. And Daphne from the organization Digital Lift asked which, or rather, what you're using as a unique identifier. I presume that's maybe when we were talking about the managed duplicates piece.
If it is, yeah, we've been relying heavily on email. And I see Daphne said yes. Yeah, we have utilized email as that unique identifier, which I don't, I don't think it's perfect. I know it's not perfect. There are, individuals in our network that share email addresses. And so, that's where we can't necessarily just straight up scrub all duplicates. So there
Mm,
has been a bit of manual
mm,
work. And so I think we've come to the realization that at least at the stage we're at, that's somewhat inevitable to make sure we have the information the way that we want it. One of the biggest overlaps, like a real world example that I can use is when people sign up for our 5K road races, a lot of times families will sign up for people under mom's email address or
mm.
dad's email address. And so then all of a sudden that doesn't become as useful of as a unique identifier. But at least to get our list of duplicates and correctly deduplicate, email has been the column that we've used so far to get that done as best we can.
Yeah, I think email is kind of the best of a bad bunch. It's never going to be perfect, and I don't like I've worked with a lot of nonprofits on their CRMs, and I don't think I've ever seen one which I can say with 100% confidence has got zero duplicates. It's just one of those things. You get to a certain size threshold, and it's something you have to deal with. And obviously we can aim for perfection, but I think like getting it to 80, 90, 95, 99% is already, a huge increase in efficiency and yeah, it's good thing to aim for. Okay, cool. I do see another question in there from Chris, but maybe we'll just pin that one for a little later on because I want to circle back to something you've mentioned a few times, which is the Boston Marathon coming up a couple of weeks, or even a couple of days. Is it the end of this?
7 days now.
7 days.
We're within a week. Yeah.
There you go. So we spoke previously about what this is for you and Flutie, but if you'd be able to elaborate for all of us a little bit more about your work with the Boston Marathon, and then specifically what you're doing on Monday around that race and maybe even other races as well.
Yeah, I think it's timely. Obviously, we're within a week now of this large event, but I think it's a great example of how Monday has really helped us, especially on the work management side now. Shifting a little bit away from CRM, but there are some CRM tie-ins. We are connected to the Boston Marathon in a variety of ways. I would say it is probably our largest combination fundraising community and programmatic event. So we have a team of 65 individuals running the Boston Marathon. About 50% of that team are our fundraisers, our charity runners. So I mentioned that endurance fundraising is a big piece of what we do. The Boston Marathon is the biggest piece of that. So we have 25 charity runners who are running for us, raising money to benefit the Flutie Foundation as part of their participation in the Boston Marathon. And so we're very lucky to have that crew of runners, working so hard to fundraise and train. And this year they're going to raise probably a record total. So we're psyched about that. But that wouldn't be possible, I don't think. And I think it's a reflection of how involved we've been able to get in the event on all the other fronts. So we're also, as of 2020, the presenting sponsor of the adaptive program for runners. That's a program that allows individuals with eligible impairment types to run the marathon as part of a special division with a standardized qualifying time across all ages and genders. So we're the presenting sponsor of that program. We think it's incredible. It's one of a kind and really opens the doors for adaptive athletes like those that we work with autism and so many others to participate in the marathon. Because of that, our own adaptive running program has grown quite a bit over the years. So of that team of 62 that we have running, 62 minus 25 is the remainder of our team is adaptive runners and their support runners who are all part of Dougie's team for autism, which is our endurance fundraising and adaptive running team. Um, so all three of those facets of the marathon are managed by different combinations of members of our team. I mentioned we're a team of 12, but within that team, the group that works on each piece of the Boston Marathon campaign that I just outlined is a different combination than the one before it. And so what utilizing Monday and the work management platform has really allowed us to do is really stay in sync on all of those different pieces because they all completely overlap and yet all require their totally separate coordination and organization and project management. Our adaptive runners are managed by our program team as Stars of the Spectrum. They are also members of our larger team that's running the marathon, which is managed by another member of our staff. And so the logistics of that obviously are complex. When you're dealing with individuals and travel and fundraising, support, all of the above. There's a lot of moving pieces, and so being able to organize all of that in one place has allowed us to really serve all those different facets of our partnership with the race and the people that we interact with as a part of it more completely and also more in a more timely manner. And it's also allowed us to grow to that size. Just a couple of years ago, about 5 years ago, we had 20 charity runners, or maybe even 15 at that time, and 3 adaptive runners and no support runners. So our team was a fraction of the size that it is now. And I do think that having a project management tool like Monday has really helped us because not only can we be more organized, but within those different facets, if somebody's away for a week or there's a project that overlaps both adaptive running and our charity team, we're able to step in for one another across our small team. And we're also able to have all kind of that single source of truth, all that information. The CRM obviously plays in because now we have a centralized location for contact info for all of these fundraising runners, as well as our network of support runners, our adaptive runners, and their their support runners and our adaptive runners. So having that centralized communication, being able to use emails and activities to go in and see who's talked to who, when, about what, game changer for us over the last couple of years and has allowed us to grow a lot around the Boston Marathon. So it's our favorite event of the year. Obviously, we get to interact with so many great people, and we get to do so much work both on the fundraising side and on our mission and program side around the event. So, being able to keep it all in one spot with work management and CRM has been hugely helpful in scaling that event and that program.
It's so cool. Yeah, I'm sure like a lot of folks on the call can either relate or dream of being able to, to produce an event that of that scale and complexity. It's very cool.
Hmm.
Okay, so maybe we can kind of shift track to more now, like kind of tips and advice you can give for other folks who are maybe kind of starting out. My first question is around, and I mean, I know you weren't there like the day that they first began working with Monday, but I also assume that people have joined the team since you did. So in every team, there are some team members who are stronger and some team members who are less strong on Monday.com. Some are more tech savvy generally. Some are fans of Monday. Some are maybe fans of different software. So I wonder if you have any advice that you can share with people who are struggling to get their whole team on board. Because I see this a lot where maybe one person, super big fan of Monday, really wants to work, but The others are either just not adapting to new technology in general, or they've got other tools that they want to keep using.
Yeah, I think it's been obviously we can be rather nimble with our size. I mentioned we're 12, and not that long ago there was only seven of us, and so it's been easy enough for us to communicate internally about Monday because we are such a tight-knit team and a smaller staff. That being said, we obviously have had individuals who have gravitated more towards the platform and others who haven't. So it's still an applicable question as it pertains to our full staff and organization's journey with Monday. There's a couple things that came to mind when you had presented this question. The first was making it a regular point of conversation. So I think internally, folks sometimes chuckle about how often we all talk about Monday, but it really has, I think, made it more of a culturally relevant point internally and something that like makes everybody a bit more, has demystified it, I think, and made it a little bit more approachable for everybody.
And this is
Um,
like water cooler chat, informal, or this is like we're scheduling a meeting and we're going to talk about the way we're building the CRM.
I think it's more, I think it's even less than that. I think it's just keeping it as a conversation piece in, one-on-ones between managers and, staff, uh, at full staff meetings. We are a remote workforce, so we see each other in person a good bit. We're all based around Boston, but we are spread out geographically a bit across the New England area here in the Northeast. So, on virtual staff meetings, it has been a point of conversation whenever Monday has released new features or we've jumped into new features. We try to carve out a little time at some of those virtual staff meetings to talk about it. But really, I think it's more so been what I can draw a line back to, which is another point that I was going to bring up, is that we made a push at one point to get as much on Monday as we can. So if you have a project that comes up or if you have something you need to do, we made a decision as a staff that we were going to try to use Monday to accomplish what we needed to around that project. And I think that approach helped a lot too, because it meant that if you had a project you needed to do something on, our internal policy, for lack of a better term, it wasn't like written or codified, but our internal policy essentially was, turn to Monday and use Monday as the tool to try and accomplish what you need to accomplish, whether it was organizing tasks or planning an event or organizing logistics around people movement around an event weekend. Um, we made a push that was how we would try to accomplish that, which meant that everybody was basically under the directive, if you're trying to accomplish something, put it on Monday, see what you can do, and then ask questions of each other. And so I think the conversations that I'm mentioning, that regular point of conversation has been a little bit less structured for us, and a little bit less, full staff and almost more one-on-one small meetings. How are you doing this? How have you accomplished this? And now what's cool is, or I think is cool anyways, is I'm seeing our staff, some of those people who might have been a little bit less eager or tech forward to jump on to Monday for certain projects are the ones who are saying, oh, like, did you check out AI Note Taker? That's brand new. Like, I'm using it now. And, so I think at the end of the day, now 4 or 5 years on, at least in my time here at the Flutie Foundation, working on Monday, seeing how different team members have interacted with the product, um, you know, that keeping it as a main point of conversation, pushing our projects towards it whenever possible to see what worked, allowed people to kind of sandbox it in a way, and play around with it and get hands on. And that's the third point, is just trying to get everybody hands on as much as possible, which goes back to kind of our internal decision that if we had a project, we were going to try to do it on Monday. And if it didn't work, at least we gave it a shot. And so obviously there was some trial and error, and there were projects that got messy on Monday and didn't work because they weren't set up the right way the first time, or things that got broken because we did kind of just give everybody free reign to jump in and build and try things. But at the end of the day, I think the time spent fixing those broken pieces or kind of backtracking from things that might not have worked at the end of the day allowed people to get some hands-on learning. And that's really the only way that I've seen people excel on the platform, on my teams especially, is getting hands-on. And, sometimes it takes a little nudge to be like, well, try it on Monday instead. But now it's become the default. It's become natural, and making people, getting people hands-on, building and trying things instead of just like handing templates, I think was both useful because we didn't have the time to build all the templates right off the jump. And also it allowed people to just kind of get in and play around. And, if something broke, we were able to fix it. Nothing ever too serious could happen. So,
Cool. Okay, yeah, that sparks me in two different directions. One is a question from me, and one is a question that came earlier from Chris. So my question was, is there anything that you do wish you knew in advance? Like now that you've had this experience, or would you go back in time and tell, like Ethan, when you were starting off building one day, like were there any pitfalls you could have avoided? And Chris's question was like, did you just have to outsource any of this work? Like, were there any third parties involved in building your Monday platform? Chris says, what is the budget you spend on Monday, including roles at the foundation, 100% dedicated to managing Monday? Or did you truly just get your hands dirty and build the stuff all yourself?
um, I'll start there, and it's that last piece. So we did work with one third party. So we're on an enterprise plan, given the size of our team, but also the scope of how we decided to utilize Monday as our main platform for essentially everything. And so all of our budget for Monday is tied up in our plan essentially. Because we are on an enterprise nonprofit plan, we did have an onboarding third party specialist when we did buy into the CRM product. That was just to get us migrated over. And I think it was a couple weeks, maybe a couple months that we were having regular touch bases with that third party provider for Monday's CRM onboarding. Other than that, we haven't outsourced any of the build. It has all been trial and error. Would we be where we are today 2 years ago or a year ago if we had outsourced more? Maybe, but I also think that we have the solutions in place or in under construction that we do now because many of our staff members did just jump in and start to work on the platform, and we didn't outsource a build that like set up a structure and then we went with. We kind of like built the structure as we went. So more trial and error that way, more looking back and saying, I wish I would have known this or that, which I'll get to in a second. But also, no, we didn't outsource to a third party for any of the major builds. We also don't have any staff members 100% dedicated to Monday. I'd say there's myself and two other folks essentially who spent the most time on Monday building over the last couple of years, like sitting in a conference room for a full day once a week over the summer, things like that, when our event schedules are lighter, doing the sort of like building, strategizing, figuring things out. But we have not at any point had a staff member 100% dedicated to Monday, nor have we outsourced to a third party. And our budget around Monday is just obviously the staff hours that are spent on that, and the contract cost of having upgraded to an enterprise plan. Um, I think when you pose this question, it got me thinking there's a lot, obviously, I wish that I knew. I think, again, it speaks to the fact that we have built the way that we have makes us look back and say, like we have a really good understanding of how our whole Monday platform, our account works together because a couple of us have spent so much time building it. But just overall connectability or connectivity and the ability to run projects a bit more streamlined than we did when we were starting out. So we we used to take an approach where when we had a project come up, we would basically have a board for every piece of that project. So we would have like a form for an application or an intake form or an RSVP. We would have a board for logistics. We would have a board for sponsorships. Take an example, a campaign that we have been heavily invested in the last couple of years, where we're a corporate partner or a big corporate partner of ours is Jersey Mike Subs in New England, and then in a few other geographic locations around the country. To manage activating on that corporate partnership, we had boards for visits in different months of the year. We had different boards for different types of visits to stores or grants that were given out as part of the partnership. Now, all of those things live essentially in one board, maybe two. So now, after a couple of years on the product and learning how it interacted with our work, utilizing connected board columns at a much higher level, utilizing views on boards has really changed our approach so that all information is in one place around a project. So I think that is probably the biggest looking back. Like if I would have known that would have changed how we did things the most. Because now when we have projects or we're creating boards, we're not looking at like, how is this board a to-do list or a status tracker for the thing we're doing right now? We're looking at, is this an annual campaign? Great. Then can each year of the campaign live in the same board? That way we can more quickly reference and connect back to information about how this specific thing went last year, as opposed to finding the old board or connecting the old board. And then obviously utilizing different views, realizing that, especially on work management, a single board could be so much more than just a list of applications, say for a race like the Boston Marathon. It could be a list of applications. It could be our final team list with people's gear sizes on it. It could be also a place where a view is completely separated from those two things and is a list of to-dos and like a roadmap tracking the steps and pieces of the project itself. So I think looking back, having learned that or understood that earlier would have changed a lot of how we organize things, being able to keep things in one place as opposed to, having a separate board or a separate, place for every little detail or every little facet of a project.
Really interesting. Yeah, the ability to kind of zoom out by putting stuff into one place. It's
Hmm.
like an interesting angle. Cool. And maybe I can just kind of summarize from a Monday point of view some of the things that Ethan mentioned there. So upgrading to enterprise, if anyone is interested, you get a 33% discount off that from Monday for Nonprofits. And yeah, enterprise plans are figured out with a sales representative, and there's all sorts of add-ons in terms of support and onboarding and some of the stuff Ethan mentioned there. You can find that at monday.com/nonprofits/pricing. Submit a request to speak to a salesperson if you're interested in that. You don't have to upgrade to enterprise to work with external consultants. And in fact, I'll put a link in the chat now. We just were able to secure a deal with many different external partners who are specialized in implementing for nonprofits through the partners catalog. So in this link that I've just provided, you can see not only partners who are specialized in working with nonprofits, but who have agreed to give a 20% discount to nonprofits around implementation. So if you do feel like this is just a bit big for you, or there's one specific project you're struggling with and you want to, outsource that, it's cheaper than ever before. Either to upgrade to enterprise and have that service included, or keep where you are, maybe on the nonprofit pro plan, and just get an external partner. So just wanted to point that out. Um, cool. So I think along the same lines, there's a question here from Chelsea. Chelsea asked, "What do you think contributed to the highest adoption within your organization?"
Good question. The first thing that comes to mind is like thinking about those users at our organization who may have jumped on more like, I guess, weren't full-fledged Monday, all in on Monday right from the jump as much as others. I think seeing their projects like come to life and really work on Monday the way that we've built it out, I feel is a big piece of what makes them now gravitate towards Monday. And really, what that boils down to, I think, is just an understanding of all the features and what's available. And I think that largely came through the hands-on learning that we really tried to push. For us, it was a bit of just out of necessity, like, yes, hands-on learning, but at the same time, there's only so many of us trying to do so many things. So everybody's got to just jump in and kind of learn what we're doing and figure it out. But I do see that those who have gone from least adopted to most adopted, for lack of a better way to put it, I feel that if I had to put a pin in why that is or what piece it is, it's seeing everything work the way that it does when things are set up with automations and how it kind of alleviates the workload of how the project maybe used to be done. I think at the end of the and we're also much more organized on the platform than we were over the last couple of years too. So that's come a long way. And I think the cleaner, more organized version of where we are now, which certainly took some time and all that trial and error I've talked about. Um, people being able to log in and find what they need and know where it is and have that like single source of truth from the CRM, for example, has really helped people buy in even more if they hadn't already.
Cool. Thanks. Hopefully that answered your question, Chelsea. And another question from the chat from Daphne, who
Mhm.
asks, are there any features you feel are missing in Monday CRM that would make your work easier? And I love the fact that, these questions can come to you and not to me, and we can talk honestly about this from from a real nonprofit's point of view, rather than me having to badmouth my colleagues in the product development team.
Yeah, it's a good question. I think so. I get the way I would frame my thoughts around that question are like the biggest hurdles we've faced are like how do we make the CRM do what we need it to do and work for us? And I've talked a bit, during the time here so far about how, we have so many different types of constituents who wear so many different types of hats. And so um, when as we've been building it out, one thing that's been difficult, I guess our biggest challenge has been the CRM is really built from a sales perspective, obviously. So the out of the box product is really focused on what I would call, or in my opinion, your traditional like sales operations and sales flows from leads to opportunities and pipelines to deals. And so I guess if I could say anything, I guess it would be perhaps like uh, maybe more of like a selected like group of features, which obviously the CRM is still new and all, but we've taken that and I think that's outside of like how do we set it up? That's been the other piece that's taken the most time is like how do we relate what Monday was getting at here, what the product development team was getting at here when looking at a traditional sales flow for somebody who's selling a product versus what we do, which is in a way, sales in our fundraising department, we're selling to donors, our mission, and we're trying to gain donors. But we also have volunteers who we need to manage XYZ on. We have program participants. We have corporate and community partners. So not all of those groups fit well or like seamlessly into like the predefined sales process. So I guess if I were to say if there were any features that might be not necessarily missing because it's built to be the way that it is, but perhaps maybe added someday, especially from the nonprofit front, are just maybe some other boards or like preset modules to deal with those different types of constituents and their journeys. Because obviously, every nonprofit's a little bit different too, but most nonprofits I guess probably don't fit directly into that like sales pipeline. Like you get a lead, you qualify the lead, you sell the product, you build a contract. Like we're not selling a service, we're not selling a product. We are trying to convince people to donate, and we're also administering programs and grants. And so we've taken the time now to understand how it's built, how those pre-made automations are meant to interact, and we've kind of looked at it and said, if we were an organization that was selling a product, how would we line up our donation flow with this and things like that.
Top of the sales.
um, yeah, so maybe if there was someday like more of an out of the box solution that focused on a different track of customer relationship management as opposed to traditional sales. But at the end of the day, it has worked well for what we've needed, which is again single source of truth, housing people's contact information, and getting all of our people and partners in one place. So I do feel probably as we build it out, there may be more features that come to the surface that we wish were there, but so far it's worked pretty well for us, and that's been really the biggest feature focused like hurdle, I guess, is just navigating where we fit into what was given to us, out of the box.
That's really interesting. I'm really glad you asked that question, Daphne, because that's really insightful. And so, just to like really hone in on what you said, basically, are you saying you took the existing solution and changed things rather than built a new solution on the CRM products? Like you took a board that was called uh, potential deals and you changed its name to potential donors. Roughly speaking, obviously, there's probably a lot. It's probably a Frankenstein by now. It's had so many changes, but that's how it started, or am I
But
misunderstanding?
yeah, essentially in that vein. And I think, we also didn't want to, there's boards set up for like sales materials and things like that. We didn't want to necessarily scrap anything until we figured out, what we could use and adapt and what we couldn't. Again, we've largely stuck to the core CRM boards for a lot of the work we've done so far. But that deals is a great example, as is opportunities. Like we don't we've taken the opportunities board and tweaked it so that it fits a like a donor pipeline more than like a sales deal pipeline. And so again, like there's little nuances to how we've done that. A lot of it is just like renaming columns, adding columns where there's information missing. We didn't want to just scrap boards like that because like the opportunities board, for example, has really great features pre-built in for forecasting, like pipeline value and things like that. But out of the box, it's obviously more geared towards, like sales of like a service or like contracts, things like that, where we wanted to track similar things like potential corporate donations, sponsorship contracts, things like that. But we also wanted to track opportunities around in-kind donations and opportunities around partnerships that might not have a monetary value directly attached to them as like a sales of a product always would. So yeah, it's largely been that last piece of what you said, taking what's there, figuring out how our business uses that type of thing, and then tweaking it to fit accordingly.
Oh, no, really, really helpful stuff, and I'll be sharing this with some of our team for sure.
Great.
If anyone has other features they want to request, there is also a features request board. I can include a link to that in the follow-up email as well. But yeah, helpful, interesting stuff. Okay, we have really just a minute left. Before I give you a chance for any kind of closing remarks, this is something that I didn't tell you I was going to do, but I thought it could be fun. I wonder, Ethan, if you have any guesses how many engagements you've had on your Monday board in the last 6 months. Now, this is the maximum level of kind of detail that I can see. I want to make it clear that when I log into my system, I cannot see Ethan's boards. I cannot tell, what exactly he's done, but I get a list of engagements. And engagement, by the way, is everything. It could be changing a status or adding an item. Everything counts as an engagement. So, Ethan, any guesses for a number,
Oh
buck
man.
figure, 6 months? How many engagements on Monday?
I'm not even sure what the right ballpark is, like tens of thousands or thousands or um boy. Why don't I'll just go with the last 6 months you said?
Last 6 months. I know I'm putting you on the spot here, so no hard feelings if you're way above or below.
I'm gonna say 5,000. I have no idea how that might stack up to the real number.
5,000. Okay, you've used Monday 3 times more than you thought you have. In the last 6 months,
Wow.
you have 15,000 plus interactions on your board. You mentioned that there are yeah a couple of other people who are also pretty heavy users, and I can see them on there as well. You're actually in third place, so yeah, Ethan's account is definitely a very well used account, and I hope yeah it's been yeah helpful and maybe inspiring to other folks out there who maybe are getting started, maybe have some challenges, and from my behalf, but also on behalf of all of our nonprofits. Thank you so much for sharing this stuff with us, Ethan. And to finish things off, I'll pass the mic back to you if you want to say any closing remarks, about the work that Flutie Foundation is doing, ways that people can contact you, and yeah, you can have the last word. But thanks everyone for joining, and thank you very much again, Ethan, and the folks from Flutie Foundation for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Alex, for the opportunity to chat, the platform to talk a little bit about what we're doing. We definitely appreciate Monday as a tool that we use, and so We've worked with a lot of people over at your team, and we've appreciated all the support we've got, and and trying to build out everything that we've been building out. If you want to learn more about the Flutie Foundation, it's flutiefoundation.org. And our general contact info is on there as well. We're always excited to meet and chat with other nonprofits, especially in the autism space or the disability space. And obviously, as you can tell from everything I've said, we love running. So always love chatting about peer-to-peer fundraising and endurance fundraising as well. So thanks again, Alex. This was fun, and looking forward to continuing to build out our Monday account as we speak.
Beautiful. Okay. Thank you very much, everybody. And thanks again, Ethan.
Thanks, Alex.
Bye bye.